Hey, everybody. Welcome to She the Mighty, the podcast, where we train, finance, and mentor female entrepreneurs. I'm Michelle Smith.
And I'm Kylie Martin.
And this show is called What Do You Want to Talk About? We wanted to say a hello as this is our first episode. So we've been being asked for a couple of years to start a She the Mighty podcast. And today is the day. We are shooting episode number 1. And we wanted to tell you a little bit about what we're going to be talking about on this show. So on our channel, there's going to be several different shows where we cover different subject matter. This show is called What Do You Want to Talk About? And we felt that it was really important to have a candid conversation that other people can eavesdrop in and be part of when it comes to all facets of challenges that we face as female entrepreneurs and solutions that we can find in order to shortcut sometimes the painful moments or the challenges along the way. So Kylie, why were you excited to build this podcast together? And what are the things that you really want to get into when it comes to the challenges that women face and everything that comes with being an entrepreneur?
Oh, such a loaded question and a fun question. And I'm so excited. For me, we have been having conversations for years.
Yeah, a decade.
And the kinds of conversations that light the fire within, that excite you, that move you. And I don't just mean move you emotionally, move you forward in action. And for me right now, conversation is the thing that I learn the most from. I think also, and again, personal opinion, but we don't necessarily know anymore what we read and what we see as being full truth. And for me, being in conversation with an entrepreneur, with a woman such as yourself, talking about actual real experiences, for me, that's where I learn. That's where I grow. And I'm so excited that you and I are bringing this to life because how many times have we said to one another, we should bring these to women, to other women, not just you and I. And I think, listening to other podcasts is where I get my information. I love listening to podcasts. I think they're the greatest way to gain knowledge. And so we get to now bring ours to the forefront. And I know we're going to have so many powerful conversations with one another, but also with other women. And I think that there are other women like us out there that feel the same. They're hungering for being at the table, as one would say, like being part of it. And I think podcasts are a way to sort of, introduce concepts, introduce people and relationships. So it's super exciting. I'm so glad we're finally doing it and that today's conversation is here. And for me, it's just an exciting endeavor.
Yeah, I love it. I agree with you. And so for me, the impetus kind of came about when we actually started to have weekly calls on our platform, and the conversations that we would ensue and get into, they were so wildly different because of the real life scenarios that the women on our platform are experiencing, and their desire to table a conversation and to hold court with other experienced entrepreneurs that had great insight, that could understand and synthesize information, that could help them either seek solutions or sometimes just relate and have a moment of no one needs to try to fix us, but let's talk about this one particular thing. And that there's some healing in that. There's some evolution in that. There's some growth in that. And so, yeah, I too am really excited that we can now take some of those conversations and bring them out to the podcast and then have an ending open to what conversations that we might get engaged with in the future. So the show is called What Do You Want to Talk About? So I came on today with one burning question that I have been asked, and I know you have gotten asked, and this is a reality in both of our lives, and that you have done this very well over the past decade and a half. And the question is, how do you succeed as a multi-hyphenated entrepreneur? How do you change what you're doing or skew and adopt your game a little bit? And how do you navigate the world? There are so many things that come into play with this. So I want to throw that question to you and let you start us off with, what do you think about how do you navigate when you want to switch up your hats, make a pivot, right? You know, the things that we are well aware of and see all the time. Tell me your thoughts.
Yeah, so well, I live this, and, because I'm doing so many different things,
Mhm.
all of great importance to me and hopefully to others, and all of like, equal weight in a way, but I think the quick answer to your question is I'm still learning about how to do that. Like, honestly, for me, it's a constant. But what I've learned to love about it is that I struggled with what my answer was going to be when I met new people and they said, "What do you do?" And most people will ask that I've changed the way I ask people when I meet them. I say like, "What's your deal? What do you do for fun?" Like, I changed the question because to me, the do isn't really what we actually want to know. We want to get quickly to what people's gifts are. And so I think that I struggled with answering that. I was like, well, I'm a musician, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm a this and I have this and I do and then it just get way too confusing and way too difficult to explain. And I've gotten way more comfortable in practicing that, but also in fully owning that.
Yeah.
And what I've come to learn from our platform and talking to women is that, oh my gosh, I'm not alone.
100%. And so on that point, I think that that came really heavily into play when everybody was starting to edit their profiles online and there was all of this new education. And I know you and I have had conversations at length about the almighty elevator pitch. And that, yes, it does serve in some cases. So, I mean, I teach sales, so I know that the elevator pitch absolutely serves in certain scenarios. But it can be such a trap when it comes to an evolutionary entrepreneur, particularly for women, when you're trying to fit yourself into this one little tiny little box that says,
Yes,
I do X for Y so that they can blah.
correct.
Right.
Yes.
And okay, so let me ask you another question. So in your experience when you were going to events, like if you went to a networking event, if you went to an event in order to meet up with peers that you were getting introduced to new people, did you have any type of anxiety when people would come up and say, "What did you do?" Or did you notice other people struggling with that where they would kind of circle, went around it, and sometimes they didn't sound so confident because they were seeking approval or of some sort?
Well, I think that's it. I think that is actually what's happening is I was aware that I was trying to sound like I knew what I was talking about. And not because I needed to know what I was talking about, but because I thought, okay, I've got to say this really cool line that's going to make someone go, "Oh, okay," and then I started to realize like that's not actually what you need to do because people read and feel energy before they're actually listening to words,
Mm,
right? So I figured that out fairly quickly of like if I just was able to go like, oh well, like especially to just backtrack for a moment. Also, like a bit of mirroring was something that I captured. Like depending on the event I was at and who the people I was talking to were, I knew how to kind of massage how I was going to come forward. But
yeah.
I don't know that I ever had anxiety, but I think I gave it too much thought. And that
Okay.
pulled me out of the moment. It pulled me away from being fully present in the moment, saying, "Hi, Michelle, I'm Kylie, and then here's what I do or what I bring." And I realize that by not saying what I do, but by rather saying, and we've done this with She the Mighty, by saying like, how do we serve? What are we helping to do? Not what I do, because it might be like, oh, I paper push and I write emails and I like whatever. I'm an accountant. Like, okay, people are gonna go, okay, I get you, but actually, what are you doing that is that purposeful lifeblood fuel of like, yeah, I went to bed tonight because I did this today,
Yeah.
right? And I feel satiated and I feel spent in all the good ways because this is what I'm meant to do for another. And I think if more people kind of approached it that way, oh man, I think our conversations would be
Okay.
exceptional.
100%, completely different. So I want to stay on that before we move on, simply because of the relevance. So we started and we launched a call called Mighty Connections last December on our platform. And so that's a networking call that we've been running this whole year. And we changed what our prompts were at the beginning and started asking questions that didn't pigeonhole people for that exact reason, because we have observed that people do show up with a little bit of nervousness when they're asked, "What do you do?" And it's almost as though there is this judgment that ensues and the oxygen is sucked out of the room and you're on stage and it's this everybody's going to judge you depending upon what you say and how you say it. And it seems to be a very ineffective way of creating powerful connections and powerful introductions. And so we started to ask, what are you most proud of? Or what is something that you are excited about within the next year? Or we start off a prompt with a different question and it opens up such interesting conversation. So I love that as kind of a side note that maybe for everybody listening, when you go to a networking event, instead of saying, what do you do as your tool in your pocket, if you've ever experienced or felt anything like this, or if you've ever observed other women responding that way, maybe you'll forge more powerful connections if the question that you open actually opens a greater dialogue because you're asking something that they feel certain about how they can answer, right? So maybe part of it is the questions that we are all choosing to ask,
I
right?
love that. I love the "What are you proud of?" Because, you might have someone go, My kid, my kids," right? Like,
Yeah,
"Oh, well, why?" "Oh, well, because he just competed in a," and then all of a sudden, you're getting to so much deeper content of who this person is. You're going to get to what they do eventually because that's just still the culture we're in, and you're
that's right.
probably at a business-minded event. But the way we connect with people that we work with or partner with or collaborate with or any of the above is relational. It's relationships. It's not like, oh, you are the best accountant, although that helps, and I'm going to work with you. It's like, I like you. I trust you. I know who you are. I
How can I
understand how
work
you
with you?
work.
Right. And so how can I work with you? What do you do that I may have a need for? You're dead right. And so being able to make a real connection first then allows there to be such a bigger permission at play when people say, "Okay, so what are you up to these days?" Or "What is it that you're doing?" Or "What's business like?" Or and you open it up as a open ball question, and people will feel so much more at ease to say, "Well, that's kind of a complicated answer. I do a bunch of things." But the judgment moment has been passed
Yes.
because you've actually started to connect as a human to a human. Okay, so I love it. Okay, so then let's go back to the multi-hyphenated entrepreneur because I know that there's a lot of people that are listening that also either struggle with this or they're being navigated through a pathway of what does it look like, right? So some of the things that come up for me is part of my job previously when I ran my sales company was to be a recruiter. So we were doing interviews consistently. And back in those days, there were relevant questions to ask when you saw gaps in the resume if people hadn't worked for a period of time or if they had jumped from one thing to another thing to another thing to another thing. And all of the training sessions that existed at that time were trying to inform the recruiters that these were signs of people that were either lacking in commitment or didn't have, a real plan or they got fired all the time or what have you. And with reflective ability, all of that was just guesswork, right? That was conjecture. There was some of the most creative souls that I interviewed that had changed what they were doing. And those were some of the most fun interviews that I had, where I would look at their resume and say, okay, you've done 10 different things in the past 8 years. Tell me what's been one of your most favorite adventures. And what was one of the things you enjoyed the most, or what were you so passionate about? And the conversation that we would get involved in, oftentimes those would be the people that I was like, oh my gosh, they're my top pick for the day. So I think somewhere in everybody's psyche, there still may be this judgment that if you move around too quickly or if you don't sound completely certain about what's going to happen next, then there's going to be a downfall. Now, I know in certain cases that's absolutely true from a business perspective. If you're making an offering, you've got to know with clarity what it is you're offering, and they've got to know with clarity what it is you're offering so they can say yes. Because if they're unsure, they're going to say no. That said, in today's world, there are so many new opportunities that are popping up left, right, and center. I found the course catalog when I went to university overwhelming in choice. I can't even imagine what the course calendar options look like today.
They.
So, right. So, how do you help navigate or how do you help to make sure that people are feeling good about the fact that they have been a multi-hyphenated entrepreneur, that they do this, and then they've got a side hustle and they're working on this. They're still working on writing the children's book or the whatever the case. And what's your advice, particularly because of your experience working with massive companies, working through their brand story and how they communicate their purpose and get down to these very succinct statement pieces so that the world understands when they advertise what it is that their missions are and their purpose driven outcomes that they're looking to achieve. I think that that tailors right down to an individual. So tell us things about that.
Oh my gosh, you've said so many things and where to start. Not knowing the path and what you're doing and where you're going, perfectly okay. As a matter of fact, fully encouraged. And paper only goes so far. So I love that you talked about like curiosity with interviewing people that have done a lot of things, because actually it comes down to how does that person connect those dots and explain. If the person's going, like, I don't really know why I did all that. Okay, fair enough. If they say, I loved this and it made me realize I wanted to do this. And then that made me realize that I wasn't really good at that, but I was really good at this. And I went here. Like, there is a path of growth for a lot of people. And so good that they moved on quickly, right? In a way, because it's all learning of what they want to do, what they're good at. So I would say for that, I think that will hopefully, because again, we're in a world now where it's fast, right? So maybe that will change culturally, that it's not going to be so negative if someone has done a whole bunch of things when they're, say, interviewing for a job. The second question you had was, I think, like, how do you what's your advice for someone who is doing a whole bunch of things? I think it still comes down to ownership. Ownership. Like if you have confidence in all the things you touch and do, and you love them, like, I mean, none of us should be doing stuff we hate. Sometimes we have to, but my advice always is, you know, so many things can be soul sucking. So get into a daily workplace, or work, the work that you do, get into a space where you're happy there, you love it. It's like, we don't there's things in business that aren't the awesomest. We know that. You know, there's lots of work, but at least the goal and the thing that you're doing should be enjoyable. There should be a fire under there.
Yeah, and I want to make the statement that especially if you're an entrepreneur,
Oh,
right? Especially
absolutely.
if you're an entrepreneur, because you are
Yes.
the person that is making all of the decisions. And so you're dead right though. You can equally build a business that sucks the life out of you and makes you feel like you can't stand to do it another day, or you can build a business that makes you feel more alive and more purposeful and more rewarded every step of the way. Now, of course, there are business requirements that exist for all businesses,
Yes.
and all of those things aren't necessarily fun.
Fun.
But so this is where you can really get honest about what are the things that you're really good at or that you love to do, or where is it that you really elevate your business, and what are the things that you should hire somebody else to do that they're really good at that particular thing, so that it doesn't deplete the energy from you. And there's so many ways to do this when it comes to working with VAs or delegating, taking on part-time help, whether it means working with interns in the summer. There are 1,000 ways to be able to approach it, and I think you have to be really cognizant of that so that you don't burn out doing the things that you can't stand.
Yeah, and also I think it goes back to, like, we know those people that we meet where we're like, "Ugh, they're not very happy." And again, I don't necessarily really wanna work with someone who I know is, you sometimes you hear people say, "Well, I've been, I've been in this role or in this job, or I've been doing this for so long and too late now," or I'm not, that's it's so against my very being and my very belief system that I wouldn't necessarily be quick to associate with someone like that. I wanna work with someone who's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm doing this, I'm working on this, I think I've got this going, this really excites me, I really wanna change this." Like, that is the velocity at which I wanna work, and so I'm gonna align myself with people who, like, it doesn't they can be doing 10 things, but if they're really clear on it all and they're excited, and they're like, it's not, to me, that's not wishy-washy. To me, that's a pretty exciting way to be.
Yeah. Yeah. There's two different segments if we want to put them in really huge buckets just for the simplicity of the conversation. There's one group of people that are just going to be that stick in the mud curmudgeon. I'm just going to accept that this is the martyrdom of my life. Okay, so fine. I don't have anything for you. I don't know what to say. Those are decisions and choices that everybody makes on their own, and you can make a different decision or a different choice the very next day. So, that's how I feel about that. Then there are other people that really are trying to be bright lights and are overtasked or overwhelmed, and they're working so hard. They've got financial responsibilities. Maybe they're also a parent, etc. They've got all of these things. So for those people that are working on doing several different things to make ends meet, and some of them are things that light them up, then what advice would you have for someone in those shoes so that way they can get more reasons to have celebratory moments, that they can have more of the fuel that they need to keep going when they're having one of those moments of, oh, what am I doing? How do I navigate this? What's one small piece of advice? I know you've already given some that you would say to that woman, to that girl, so that she can find the energy and the resources she needs to keep going, to, keep pursuing what she's so excited about.
Yeah, and I know that girl, and I know many of that girl, like, and I know it's difficult. I really do empathize. I emphasize and empathize.
I
Uh,
emphasize how much I empathize.
yeah, something like that. A lot of emps. There's a lot of emps in there. I think that if you can stay out of the weeds of, like, because again, I think the overwhelm can take over, and then it can become a hamster wheel of overwhelm. So I
Mhm.
would just say to any of those people, anything you can do, and it's not even a work related answer, anything you can do to pull out of that energy and that energetic space, whether it's like putting down the computer and shutting it off and going for a walk for half an hour, whether it's picking up the phone and calling someone that you know is going to just just spin you off of the cycle of, because I think the overwhelm, like, there's already so much to be overwhelmed by, and then if you're dealing with all of that, it's a really difficult spiral, and then you're just gonna get more of it if you can't get out of it. So I would say, like, have a lot of, grace and a lot of, like, give yourself permission to say, like, "I have to put all of this down and do something." I hate the whole self-care, like, I don't wanna say self-care thing, but it kind of almost is that, like, what do I need in this moment to pull myself away so that there's new energy to come at this stuff, because also that's when the opportunity will sneak in. Like, weird things start to happen from the universe when we energetically get ourselves into the right place. Like, maybe a phone call comes and there's an opportunity, you know,
Yeah.
or there's so much that can happen for us when we are listening and when we are consciously when we're consciously living in that arena of, okay, what do I have to do to just be able to take a breath and be okay in this moment? That would be one thing I would say, which seems like it seems easy because it's like, okay, shut down and go for a walk or go for a drive or whatever, but it's not easy to do those things because we get mirrored in. I've got a laundry list of things I have to do, and if I don't do them, I'm going to be unsuccessful. If I don't do them, I'm going to be broke. And if I, and sometimes sometimes there is truth in that, and other times it's just this heavy negativity space that we stay in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. And I think that even the smallest things like mental toughness and mindset to me is one of the most powerful playgrounds that exists out there. Oh my gosh. You just reminded me. So when I was first learning how to do sales, we were working territories. So I learned door to door sales, right? I was 19 when I started, and they gave us a map and they said, this is your territory. And we learned how to work things. There was something called type to the right. Anybody who did it is probably laughing out there. It means that you just kept turning right so that you never crossed a street with unnecessary, so you didn't lose any footsteps, so you could maximize your time. Oh yeah, you should come Halloween. You
Amazing.
should come Halloween candying with me. Okay?
I'm
We get
in.
we get the
We're
whole
short enough.
neighborhoods.
We're
You got it. You got it. Our recon is the best that's out there. So But it was fascinating because one of the things that they taught us, and it landed with me, is they said that the most important territory that you're going to work, though, is the 4 inches between your ears. And this was such a wild concept before I had started to even consider that I had influence over the way that I thought, and that I could become somebody who could think something and then become an observer of the person that was thinking that, and make a decision if I wanted to influence what I was going to spend my time thinking about. So I totally agree that being able to do something like taking a break, physiologically, how that just has a different, right? When you posture yourself differently, you can
Yes.
stop doing the cortisol shots to your
Yes.
brain. You can instead trigger dopamine by doing some of the practices that we will
All
also
of it.
actively participate in.
So
Um,
good.
yeah, and I also love the idea too that for me sometimes it's a matter of, okay, I need to change the programming that's happening, and I really do believe that it's almost like you go to the refrigerator, you look in the fridge, you see that there's nothing in there that you want, so you close the fridge and you walk away and you're a little bit like you're depressed, right? Like you're really hungry, but there's nothing that's like amazing to eat, and so it's like this, like when you shut the door, you're like, oh, right. So, but that happens too when we're in that exact same mindset,
Yes.
when we're trying to figure out what we should do and we can't figure it out just by thinking about it or by thinking about what's a solution. And so in order to do that, you need to disrupt just standing there looking in the door of the fridge. And so it means going
100%.
out for a quick little walk, or it means picking up a book and reading something that you were excited about when you bought it and learn one thing new that puts a little light bulb off in your brain that makes you then start to have the powerful version of you show back up again, so that now you can reframe the way that you're looking at everything, get things back to manageable, and then start to execute as the smart person that you are, that is now back in the seat of influence. Sometimes life can become this insane wave and you can feel like you're wading out from shore and you just keep getting hit by all these waves, or you can stand up and realize that the water is only a foot deep and you are 5 feet tall, at least if you're me, and you are stronger than the waves.
Yes,
And
you've just gotta change the programming, and,
it's the perspective.
you've reminded me in this conversation of all of those hacks that we do that are physiological. And I mean, even for the person who's like maybe not ready to stay in the learning mindset, put on your favorite freaking dance song and like shake it off. Like it's
That's right.
amazing what those things will do. And it sounds almost too contrite, right? Like I think people are like, oh, that won't work, or but oh my gosh, try it. Like it's amazing what it does. And it just you can't think your way out of it.
Yeah. Oh
And we
yeah.
and we think we can.
On a future episode, 100%, we will go through some of those practices and we'll take them through some of the stances, and they can watch us doing it and
Amazing.
looking silly, and absolutely, it gives everybody else permission to look just as silly, but
Have
reap
a
the
laugh.
benefits that are
Have a laugh on
absolutely
our
inarguable.
expense to your benefit.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, like, a final couple of thoughts that came in when we were talking about this hyphenated entrepreneur. I really remember when I had my first book published and I'm speaking and I'm doing seminars, that I had to deal with all of these little commas in my title, right? And filling out my LinkedIn headline was like this exact same thing. It was, they tell you need to say one thing about it. And I see people do this all the time. Well, I'm a this, and I'm an author, and I'm a speaker, and I'm a this, and I'm a candle maker, and I'm a this and that and this. And so I would like to almost offer up there that you can make up your own title, right? Like if you are somebody who's in the job seeking world and you're applying for specific positions, then of course you need to make sure that you're playing by the expectations of the people that you want to get their attention. Full stop. However, in the world of intergalactic entrepreneur play, we have the ability to do whatever we want. And so I encourage
Whatever we
you
want.
to when you feel like you need to make more sense of what it is that you're doing in your life, go in and change your LinkedIn title to say whatever you feel is going to light you up that week. Like for me, one week I might put down that I'm an intergalactic sales ninja, because why not?
And I'm
Right.
gonna read your profile I'm gonna be like, who is this person? It's super cool idea. It's super
That's
cool.
right. That's right. And then this brings me back to kind of one final thought that I think is a really, really, really big lesson that we should take with ourselves and we should employ for the future for everyone that we communicate with. That in going through this multi-hat experience, which I personally love as well, because to me it's a matter of building skills, right? It's yeah, exactly. But it's a matter of building
Multi-hat. See how
skills.
she did that? Multi-hat.
Multi-hat. That's right. Shameless plug. So going through from one experience to the next experience to the next experience, the whole concept behind that is skill building. And the skills that you're building, they can be translated into multiple flavors of titles. They can be utilized in so many industries. And so the predominant target should persist to be to acquire skills that are going to give you tools so that you can navigate through life better. You can learn to do things that you're excited to do. They can allow you to have easier opportunities in the future, and that they build on each other so that you stay thirsty, so that you're still excited. So perhaps you're going to be a lifetime learner and you're still learning skills when you're 80 years old. Like, what a cool life would that be? And then
That's
this
amazing.
and the second piece to that is that we should all make it an effort to change the question that we ask children and stop asking them, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like there's one answer. We should instead ask them, what are some of the things you want to do when you grow up? And what do you think you'd like to do first? To start to embed in their young minds that they're going to have opportunities and options throughout life. And changing does not equal failure. The number of people that I interviewed that went to university, got degrees, and then sat down in a chair in front of me and said the only thing that they don't know that they want to be is what they went to school for, and they feel like they wasted years and money and time, and they felt like failures a little bit because of that. And I'm going to tell you that the percentage of people that that was accurate for was extremely high. So that is not failure, because the skills that you acquired, what you learned, the wisdom, now you have the capacity to be able to operate. I've played the game of snakes and ladders before, and sometimes those ladders are not available until you've gone up one before, ridden down the snake, and suddenly one presents itself. So on the subject of being a multi-hyphenated entrepreneur, we are very enthusiastic about how bright the future looks for you and how many opportunities really do exist out there in the future ahead. So, Kylie,
Amen.
thank you for our morning coffee chat. It happens to be morning at the moment. And we are so excited to continue having these conversations. You will be pleased with some of the ones that we have coming up next. So, for now, thank you very much for listening.
Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.